Hi, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
We're so excited.
Thank you for joining us.
4,000 registrants. Isn't that amazing?
Amazing.
Super.
We're super excited to be here with you today for, what's the title of this again?
How to get your kids to listen without losing your shit.
Bleep. She swears a lot.
There's going to be a lot of swearing today. What can I say? Get your kids out of the room fast.
Is this for adults only?
Yes, an adult audience, mature audiences only, please.
We're so excited that you are here joining us, and we would love for you to find the chat box and let us know who in your life and or what in your life makes you lose your
shit.
sleep. Yeah.
So I know in my life, it's when my teenager is rude. What about you?
In my life, it's my daughter and sleep.
Yeah?
Yeah, sleep things make me lose it.
Who and what makes you lose your shit? Just one word. The relationship, the child, the parent, the spouse, whatever. And the what. What is your trigger?
That's the introduction that we want. That's how we want to get to know you. Tell us.
Yes. We can't wait to deconstruct your answers and get to know you better.
Yeah. Welcome. So many people rolling in. It's so great to see you guys. So find the chat box. Let us know. So what about your daughter being rude makes you kind of lose it?
Well, I think, teenagers have a way of just ignoring you and dismissing you. That it just, when your kids become teens, you think you have problems now.
My kids are 3 and 4. I do have problems.
Yeah. You think these are problems, pooping, sleeping. Watch when your teenager just looks you straight in the eye and just goes, I don't give a damn about you. Something like that.
I'll take that. I like those challenges over the physical
really?
ones.
You think?
Yeah.
You think? You like that better than biting?
Ooh, when no one listens. Toddler not listening. Hi. Oh, I love these introductions. Let's just talk about these things. When my daughter continues to make the baby cry after I've asked her to stop.
So hard. So what we're talking about is our triggers. So who triggers you the most and what triggers you? Rini says that her daughter and the daughter's sleep issues trigger Rini, right?
Yeah. And Dr. Shefali says that her daughter and rudeness trigger her.
Teenage rudeness.
How to get them into the shower and eat correctly without yelling. Yes, how to do anything without yelling.
Yes, teenagers and chores.
My son stays in the bathroom for long periods of time.
What is that? Every kid does that. First, it's hard to get them in the bathroom.
My beautiful, innocent 5-year-old daughter just being 5.
Yes, that's sweet of you to notice.
That's just them being themselves. Thanks for doing this. You're so welcome. We're so excited to be doing this.
Yeah, I love doing free webinars because it's no risk. It's no cost to anyone. And it allows us to meet you, to get to know what you're struggling with and gets you to get the information that sometimes it's just too hard to get.
Yeah,
all of us are working or we're saving. So we love to do free webinars every once in a while to connect with you and give you some real tools and strategies to help make you suffer less.
This is going to be 60 minutes of content-packed stuff. For those of you who are just rolling in, we are in the chat box talking about our triggers. So who and what trigger you, trigger your anger? My daughter blaming me for everything.
We have over 3,980 people, close to 4,000 people today with us.
So you know that you're not alone.
Yes.
You're absolutely
Thousands
not alone.
have signed up.
Yeah.
Because everyone feels like they're out of control. It's a predicament that's ubiquitous.
Whining, I'm reading. Whining is designed to trigger us, right? It is biologically designed to do that. My nagging daughter, my middle son, attitude, 12-year-old having an attitude. My daughter not talking to me, fresh mouth, right? So we're getting a lot of attitude.
Well, I think that's a big trigger. We're going to touch on that in teens, in preteens.
My daughter says,
you hate me, you see?
My 2-year-old and her sleep issues. My 3-year-old son throws a tantrum when I ask him to do something. Teenager. So the trigger is just teenager.
The age of the teen is just designed to conflict with you. It's just designed to rile you up.
Yeah.
It's a truth.
Yeah. Lack of communication. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. Lots of triggers, especially in public. Oh yeah, the public triggers. I struggle with my teen lying. 13-year-old daughter refusing to go to sleep and is rude.
You know what I love about parenting, and which is why I do the work I do, is because it is the common denominator. It's the greatest equalizer. You know, you can have the most fancy pants celebrity in the room. You could have a woman from Nepal. You can have somebody who lives in Indonesia. But what will immediately bind us is our children.
Oh, I thought you were going to say is our anger.
Is our frustration about
our
them.
Anger does not discriminate. Everyone feels it. It's part of our humanity, actually. And it's
but I think parenting, right, is such a humbling, bring to your knees experience that we all experience it, right? People look at you and me sometimes and project perfection on us, right? They think that our children are going to be Nobel Peace Prize winners at the age of 7 or some, prodigies of some sort. But what they don't understand is that Rini and I, despite doing the work we do, are so fallible, so vulnerable, and fully prey to our own unconsciousness, which is why we do the work.
That's why we do the work that we do.
We do it, and we can be relatable because we're not coming from a pedestal of perfection or knowing. This is not about perfection.
And we're also about applying the techniques to ourselves to see if they work, to see if what we're saying is, okay, we're teaching this stuff. Let's walk the walk and talk the talk. Absolutely.
Yeah, but people think that conscious parenting is about some ideal utopia, but it isn't.
I would love for you to see me with my 3 and 4-year-old grocery shopping. You would not know that I was a huge advocate of conscious parenting.
Right, but conscious parenting is not about the child. It is about the parent. It's about how we are, how we modulate ourselves, and how we regulate ourselves. So if we can just remember that, then we understand it's a process, it's a journey, it's evolution, it's a slowly inclining ladder, and we won't be so frustrated with ourselves when we're frustrated, right? There are 2 arrows. The first arrow is losing our shit, and then the second arrow is losing our cool because we've lost our shit.
That's
right? Or getting depressed because we've now lost it. So we're here to give you tools and strategies. This webinar may go over an hour, so hang in there. We're going to take questions.
Is content packed, so we haven't even officially started.
We're
diving in already because that's just what we do. So for those of you who are just rolling in, everybody in the chat box is kind of talking about what triggers them the most or who triggers them the most. And we are going to give you incredible content in this that you can take away right away, use right away tonight.
Yes, and whatever we cover will be sent over to you in a PDF as well. And it will, be available for you at least for the next, 21 days or something like that, for you to access and go over and mull over and metabolize, because nothing happens overnight, which is why Rini and I do so many courses that last for weeks, because what you're getting today is just a piece of it. It's the introduction. And if it piques your curiosity, then you dive in for the other courses we offer. But this is why we do free webinars, to introduce you to our approach, our philosophy, our synergy.
Yeah, this takes practice. It really does. So again, like we were saying, you're going to get things that you're going to take home today, and you're going to get a PDF as well with a summary of what we're talking about. And we want you guys to practice, and we love the feedback.
Yes.
Come back to us and say, I tried this and this is what happened. This is what's working well. This is what I need more of.
Yeah, both our works. Rini's website is one of the most creative resources for parents and children. I love it. I'm such a fan. GoZen.com. And if you go there, it's replete with animations, with exercises, with tools, with strategies that you can apply in daily time. And my books, the 3 of them at the back,
Dr. Shefali has created not just a set of books, but a movement, a paradigm shifting movement around conscious parenting, a different kind of parenting style. And it's really a lifestyle. Anyone who's familiar with it understands that you live and you breathe it as you get to know it. And
I know it's so funny you use the word movement, because you and I have known each other maybe from the beginning of this movement, and you've kind of seen the growth and evolution. We've kind of been there together. And now, not only do we have courses and books, and Oprah has highlighted conscious parenting as something important, pivotal, vital, but also, now, you've been to my Evolve conferences.
I have. So, a few years ago, when I had my kids, I realized that there were a few things entering my relationship with my children that I did not know what to do with. And one of those elements was anger. And so I went out online and I just put my researcher hat on, because that's what I do. And I said, I'm going to figure out how to handle this, because I'm getting triggered very easily and all the time. And it wasn't just sleep deprivation, which a lot of people say, oh, I'm sleep deprived, so I'm getting angry.
Right.
So I started to do this, and I ran across one of Dr. Shefali's videos, and I said, who is this? I watched it. It was 10 minutes long. I was moved to tears, and I rarely cry. And I knew that this was something that spoke to me in a way that I actually had to reach out to her. So I reached out to Dr. Shefali, and one of the first things that I had the pleasure of doing was attending an event called Evolve, which changed my life. In 3 days, right? You have those moments. You have moments in your life where you do little things like exercise every day, and after a few years, maybe you feel like you're in better shape. Well, this was 3 days. In 3 days at Evolve, I knew I would never be the same.
So when I began gathering people together under one roof, I call it Evolve, the Conscious Way. And our first conference was 2 years ago in 2015. And now I do it every year. And the next one is coming up in September in Long Beach, California. And Rini will be presenting with me. And we have Reverend Michael Beckwith, who is a famous preacher and teacher, soulful inspirer, been on Oprah. We have Tom Shadyac, we have Susie Lula. We have so many people joining together to galvanize the movement. And you're right, there's something about being together in our presence and with you that palpably changes your being, right? You leave a different person. And that's what conscious parenting is about. It's not about being in the head. It's about being in your body in a different way, occupying your soul and your soul's destiny in a completely different way. So if you go to my website, drshefali.com, the invitation to Evolve is right there. And if you sign up soon, I have bonuses for everyone. So go to my website and explore Evolve. Join us. It's in September. And if you join us soon, I have great bonuses for you. So I hope to see you there. But
before we do that, what we want to do is give you a taste of some of this content. And we want to give you something, again, that's actionable right after you watch this webinar, which is, what do I do if I'm losing my bleep with my kids all the time? That is what we're here to talk about. And we're going to give you several strategies to do it. So should we get started?
Yes, because I hope you're ready. Yeah. Get your pen and paper. It's going to last maybe more than an hour of action-packed strategies. We're going to take question and answers at the end. So don't go.
If you're chatting, you can pop in questions. You can chat with one another, and then we will definitely answer questions at the end.
So don't leave us. We're ready to begin.
Let's go.
Let's check in.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have 4,000 people just registered, and we are ready to go strong. So let's start. Again, you're joining us for our free webinar. It's Dr. Shefali with Rini Jain.
Hi.
Rini is the founder of GoZen.com. I am the author of several books on conscious parenting. We're so excited that you're joining us on this free and fully action-packed webinar called How Do You Get Your Kids to Listen Without Losing Your Shit? And just before we begin, please know I'll be using the word shit a lot. Rini says she doesn't want to get into the habit. Her children are still young, whatever. But, well, that's just the way we roll. So we're going to keep it real, keep it packed, and keep it intense. So let's begin.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So Rini, I remember the first time you called me when you were losing your shit.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember.
I was frothing with shame, a little bit of guilt, a little bit of shame, a little bit of guilt, and a lot of frustration.
So I have a 3 and a 4-year-old, and they are precious. I mean, they're the loves of my life. There is nothing that compares to our relationship. And I was finding that every single night They wanted mommy to put them to bed. And this was special time for us. But bedtime would start around 7:30, 7:45, and would sometimes go to 9:30.
Oh my goodness, I remember.
A really long time. And they want to be with them, and they want to be with me, and they want to connect, and they want to hear stories. And it was pushing me to the point where I would have no time for myself, where I would be super mom until about 8:30ish, at which time I would turn into super witch. And I didn't realize that this was a pattern at first until I I started to get angry on a chronic basis. And my little one, who's 3, who has the absolute sweetest voice in the world, would look at me with his big eyes and say, "Don't get angry, mama."
Yeah.
And he said this to me once, and I stopped in my tracks, and I called Dr. Shefali the next day, and I said, "I'm having a huge problem. And I'm frankly ashamed to talk about it because I am a huge advocate of conscious parenting. In my own work, I work on anger transformation. I work on kids with anxiety. I work with parents all the time. And I couldn't fix this for myself."
I know. And she was helpless. And I know many of you, and I've been there too, so embarrassed because we think we're conscious. How could we not only lose it, but really, we know we've done some psychological harm already. We know it. This is part of the parenting process. The other day, a parent came to me and said, "I think I've really effed up my kid." And I said, "Of course you have. Welcome to the club." It goes without saying. So I remember, though, you were inconsolable and you just wanted something to do. You wanted a doing strategy.
I wanted 2 things. I wanted Dr. Shefali to tell me that I hadn't messed my kids up. I wanted to do something about the shame that I felt, right? And number 2, I wanted to help anyone else, first myself, and then once we figured out how to do that, anyone else who was going through the same thing.
Right.
And so we worked on those 2 things together.
Yes, but it took time.
Yes.
And I remember telling Rini, okay, we have to really slow down. If you want to make a change, there needs to be an internal journey you're going to embark on. She said, "Really? Like, I only have 5 minutes.
You know what? Yeah, I read some bullet points. They told me to breathe and I'll be fine." I'm like, can't we just do that?
Yeah, like, can you? I have no time.
I don't want to do all that internal work.
Right. But
Yeah.
then you worked with me for around 6 to 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And we worked concentratedly. We were emailing back and forth. And after 7 weeks, you began to see your relationship with your children in a whole new way. So let's break down what we did and help them do the same thing.
Absolutely. I'm talking radical change here.
Right.
Yeah.
So the first thing I had to teach Rini, and she knew this, we all know this stuff. What I'm teaching is just a resonance. It's just an echo. It's a reignition of your internal wisdom. That's why you are galvanizing towards conscious parenting, because deep down you already know.
It's a knowing. Yes.
So the first thing I told Rini was to change her paradigm, right? That it was all about her and it's all about you. This was the first paradigm that I need to change with anybody, including myself. You are losing your shit because you have shit to lose. It is inside you. It is about you. So what I wanted to teach Rini is that there was something happening inside her in that moment that she wasn't connecting to, but her delusion was that it was about her kids. So
see what it seemed like. I was going, so at 7:30ish, I would go into the room with the kids, you know, brush our teeth, all that stuff. That part was fine. And we would lie down, and then after the stories, they just wouldn't sleep. And so I'm like, clearly this is on them. Like they're doing this to me. They are triggering me. What does this have to do with me?
And how many years were you doing this pattern?
At least a year and a half I've been doing it.
Right. Yeah. We're so intelligent, but we repeat the same habit.
Insanity.
So Rini was insisting that they should have learned by now. They should be different.
What am I doing wrong? I'm being so gentle with them. I'm being so compassionate with them. I'm trying to teach them, but they're not learning.
Right. So she had an unmet expectation every night, though. every night. So
Sure.
here is where I began to deconstruct with Rini, and you can take notes and do this with yourself.
Mhm.
So the first question I asked Rini is, what was your expectation when you went in?
My expectation when I went in is that we would cuddle together, we would read stories, and that basically after about 45 minutes, I thought that was good. That was the number in my mind. They would fall asleep. I don't know where I came up with this number, but I figured that's a pretty decent amount of time to go to bed.
So every day she entered with this mission.
Yes, I had a mission and I had a time in my head. At like 8:15-ish, you guys, your eyes should be closed and you should be into deep sleep.
So here's problem number one, a rigid expectation. Second question, what was your expectation about yourself or for yourself?
My expectation was if they fell asleep by 8:15, I would be happy. That would be good for me. I could go do whatever I want. I could read a book. I could go to the gym. I could do something, right?
You had a clear vision.
I had a very clear vision of what would happen. And if that time was met, and, you know, give or take a few minutes, then everything would be good. Yeah.
So she had equalized her joyful state with a very rigid expectation. This movie was going on in whose head?
Mine.
Did anyone else agree to buy tickets for this movie?
No.
So Rini buys
really
the
good movie.
ticket,
It's a really
yeah,
good movie.
and she buys the ticket for this movie
Every
day.
night. Yes.
Now take a pause and write down quickly how you buy tickets for your movie every single day. In fact, several tickets for several movies. When my kids walk out of the bus and come home, I'm going to greet them with a smile, and then they're going to put their backpack at the right place, and then we're going to have a nice little snack together, and then we're all going to transition and do homework together.
When we have to go to school in the morning, everybody's going to put their shoes on and get their backpacks and have their hair done and brush their teeth and all the stuff, and we're all going to leave on time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here is the psychological insanity that underpins our losing our shit, that we have rigid expectations for other people and not for ourselves. So this was the first place I began to show Rini how she was setting up something without realizing. Every time you walk into the room with your partner, with your husband or your wife, you are in a movie. Every time you come home from work and want to greet your children, you're in a movie. The movie has expectations. You've given everybody a role, a function, their supporting cast, and you have a state of joy or state of anticipation of how you're going to feel at the end of the movie.
Yes. Yes, that's all very true. But don't I deserve to buy a ticket to that movie at the end of my long day? Isn't
But after 40 months of trying the same movie, don't you think you should buy tickets to a new movie?
Okay. I buy that. I can do that.
Maybe we need to change the movie.
We need to change the movie.
And since you created the movie,
I did.
you need to rewrite the script. So now we have a clash of expectations. This already takes anyone's anger from 0 to 50, but she's not yet at 100. Let's deconstruct further. As you see that the movie is not working out, it's now 8:50. The needle is going toward 9. The gym is going to close. Things are not working out. What do you begin to feel in your body?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on in the body. So the body keeps the score and it usually speaks first. So for me, I start to feel a burning sensation in my chest, a tightness here. I get a little bit of burning right here. And I believe the burning here in my throat is really related to the fact that I want to scream and yell. And I feel very intensely that if I do scream and yell, that I will feel relieved because I'm feeling my body tighten up. And sometimes I even feel like I feel myself doing this, the clenching of the whole upper body.
Would you say at this point that you are in a state of paralysis and fear, in a flee or fight kind of mode?
Yes, but I don't think that unless I had the training that I do, I would recognize that. But yeah, absolutely.
Because the needle is going so fast. This is bubbling so fast.
Because anger goes very quickly. You know, in 1 second, the feelings in your body, the next second, the thoughts racing in your head, and the next moment, before you even know it, it's a blur. It's all coming out of your mouth.
So we have to recognize that what she's experiencing when there's a clash of expectations is fear. So paradigm shift number 2. Evolution cannot occur without change. all of us want to evolve. Rini's like, I'm evolving. Can you all just work with my movie and I'll evolve? She doesn't realize at that point that she needed to change in order for evolution to take place.
Yes.
So to transform life from shit to a shift is the F letter.
You added the letter F.
It's just always the F letter. But it's about forfeiting fear. So Rini had to realize that she was in fear, but she was dogmatic in the beginning.
But what was my fear? My fear was
you were like, it's not fear.
It's not fear.
And then
what
you were
scared of.
But then you made it all about the kids still. Remember, you're like, I'm afraid that they. Remember what you told me?
Right. I'm afraid that they're going to be tired the next morning. Right. I'm afraid they're not going to learn to sleep on their own. I'm afraid they're going to have lifelong issues with sleeping.
So she again was presenting as the perfect mother. And I said, no, Rini, your fear is about you. And she was like, what do you mean?
I'm not scared.
Right. And then we went into, and we can't go into it right now, but we do go into this in our longer courses on anger, is that it was about your inner child. Rini, as a young girl, learned that she needed to be a certain way in order to feel joyful. And when that way wasn't working out, she went into fear. But she's buried that fear. And fear, when it's buried, can only come out as anger.
So I know we're not going to do a lot of inner child work on this webinar, but I do want to say just a little bit about it so that they understand. What Dr. Shefali asked me is, how do you feel? And I said, well, I feel angry when my kids don't go to sleep. And then she said, why? And I said, because I feel scared that they won't learn to sleep on their own. And I feel worried about that. And she said one line that just really hit me, which was, because you felt what when you were a child? What was the exact line that you asked me?
There was something in your body when you're with your children. There's something inside you when you're with your children. This goes for you too, whether your kids are not eating the way you want them to eat, acting the way you want them to act, or sleeping, pooping, anything. There's something in your body that is a memory trace from your childhood. So I asked her, there's something about being the perfect person that is bringing up fear for you. So go back to your childhood, and you need to do this too, and ask yourself, why is this coming up for me now? What about me as a child is a memory trace that is reigniting itself through my children? Because our children are our mirrors. They're here to remind us of the wounds we left unfinished. So Rini,
I remembered that growing up, I always felt like the pillar of strength for my family. I was not the pillar of strength within, but I felt like I needed to be that. I felt like I needed to appear to be perfect. And it was the same thing I was doing with my kids.
It's this role. It's this role you've been playing of being the all-encompassing provider of every need. Rini's like that in my life. So imagine how you are with your children. So putting them to sleep was part of your mission, was part of the mantle you wore, being the perfect parent. Most of us have this. When we're fighting with our children to eat their carrots, we don't care about the carrots. We care about the movie we have about being perfect, right? We want them to be perfect, and we want ourselves to be perfect.
Because when we were young, and then you have to fill in the blank, and that is really what is eye-opening and completely different than anything I had read before or worked on before or researched before. This was a shift for me, a huge shift. I realized that I was trying to be perfect for them.
And that you were in your own regurgitation and rehealing of an old wound. Your children were just being children.
My children were just being children. They're absolutely wired to connect to their primary caregivers. They're wired to cuddle. They're wired to get that touch. They're wired to want you, especially if you're working and you're not around all day long. You know, they're wired to want to sleep in your bed, to co-sleep with you. All of this is part of who they are.
So you were projecting onto them that they were the enemy, the threat. But really, what was the enemy or the threat was your own internal pressure to do it perfectly. 8:40, I'll put them to sleep. They're going to be happy. I'm going to be happy. I'll go to the gym, and then I'm going to go and do my work, and then da-da-da. So she had this whole script. This is the insanity that fuels our losing our shit.
Okay, so now I'm just going to push back on you a little bit, right? So I changed my script. I really did. And I said, listen, this is just something that's part of our lives where I'm spending this time with them. But the reality is, from doing that, I still did carve into my sacred time, right? So this didn't change the reality of not having my own me time. So how do we deal with that then?
Right. And I'm going to touch on that at the end, where we talk about how to create self-care strategies that help you take care of your inner child so that the real children in your life don't suffer. This is a core problem in high achieving, highly empathic people, that there is no me time. And that's why the inner child within us, Rini's inner child, was suffering. How can we pay attention to our real children when our inner child suffers? And our 7-week course on anger transformation goes deep into the issues of the inner child to help you resurrect the needs of the inner child. You know, I was going to call my book The Awakened Family, Who's the Real Child, right? Because aren't we just basically reacting and taking care of our own inner child needs? And the real children are just pawns in this game.
And you'll find also, it's funny, that inner child, that voice will come out, right? Maybe not the real inner child, but what happens to me is I regress to the voice of a child when I start to get very angry.
We're all 3-year-olds.
Yeah, I will match my 3 or 4-year-olds, and I'll realize I'm joining in the tantrum. I'm joining them in matching their voice.
So when you are faced with a challenge with your children, you have to step back and ask, what is the unmet expectation? What is my movie? You should write out the whole movie. In my book, Out of Control, I begin with a story about my making a tri-colored lasagna, and then my daughter just spit it out, and how she ruined my movie of winning the Chef of the Year and Mom of the Year award. I was so upset. So we have to recognize the movie you're setting everybody up to play in. No one consented. You're buying the ticket every day. You're in a roller coaster of a pattern. Mm-hmm. You're not recognizing that you have an inner child. You need to respond to the inner child before you can ever parent the real child. That's why all this work on conscious parenting is about raising the parental self before you raise the child's self. So Rini had to then completely commit to realizing that every time the needle went out of control in anger, mm-hmm. it was fear. So the paradigm shift that Rini made, the third one, is that all her reactive anger was fear. That was a hard one for you.
Yeah.
Right? You wanted to believe it was your children.
Yeah. But I knew it to be true, because what I know as a researcher is that anger is a secondary emotion. Yes. And there is always a primary emotion underlying the anger.
Yes.
And I didn't want to turn that X-ray vision on myself.
Yes. Yeah. This is key, what Rini said, that anger is a secondary emotion. It's never the primary emotion. So in a way, the anger is a veil. It's a disguise. It's a
very compelling disguise, because it actually, the physiological response of anger, it kind of covers up the rest of the emotions. So you're like, I'm just angry. It's not that I'm sad. It's not that I'm hurt. It's not that I'm fearful, because you're actually not able to even feel those emotions underneath, because the anger can be so powerful until you diffuse it. Once you diffuse it by doing a process like we're going through right now, and you can learn strategies to diffuse in the moment, then you can see the real primary emotion. For me, it was fear. And 90% of the time it's fear.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So you are losing your shit because you are in fear. Whenever you are out of control, at least have the awareness somewhere in the background that you are in fear. It's how we're wired. Tell them about how our primitive brain has been wired to primarily react in fear.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have this fight, flight, or freeze response that is activated in the amygdala, or the limbic system, the emotional part of the brain. And what it does is, one, it goes very quickly, right? So it reacts in in fractions of a second. The second thing it does is it takes over the entire brain. It says to the newer part of the brain, listen, I'm in charge right now because I'm in charge of protecting you. And so I'm going to shut you down. What happens is you'll notice that if we're angry or if we're fearful, both of those emotions lie in the same part of the brain, it's hard to think clearly. It's why when your kids are angry, when they're throwing tantrums, or if you have an angry teenager, it doesn't really matter, or you're dealing with an angry spouse or partner, logic is going out the door. It cannot be processed, right? When we're active, that fear center is activated.
So we're not only going back to inner child, what you're saying is that we're going to some old ape-like primitive protection in some jungle. Like that's the part of the brain that's being activated, such an old, archaic, stagnant, primitive.
And what happens in that part of the brain is that the thoughts that come out of our head are also for protection, but they're exaggerated. It's the reason that you hear mistaking a stick for a snake. We need to, so think about the caveman that was out and the saber-toothed cat jumped out, right? If it wasn't, let's say it wasn't the actual cat, but it was a stick that moved. Well, if his brain said to him, listen, there's danger, the brain wants you to survive. So the brain is actually saying, there's danger, screaming, there's danger, wildly exaggerated, usually notoriously inaccurate. And the reason I'm bringing up the caveman is because it happens now. So my feelings and my thoughts toward my children were wildly exaggerated, right? Very loud. That inner voice in my head was very loud and it wanted to take over. And that's what happens.
And psychology today has, and parenting psychology especially, has this cliched way of talking about triggers, right? All the books out there say that, oh, your children just know you have a big red button and they know how to push your red buttons. And I remember the first time I presented an alternative way. You were there, right? When I first talked about a new way to look at triggers.
It was the first Evolve event that I went to. And I had never heard anything like this before. And I would love for you to say what you said or a part of what you said.
Yes. So I knew that it was going to ruffle feathers because it was a new way to look at triggers. What I said was this, that this entire popular psychology approach that our children trigger us and they just know how to trigger us, all of that way of thinking is blasphemous. It's sacrilegious. It is actually poisonous. And then somebody said to me, oh, come on, we're just saying it as a way of saying it. You know, they just know.
Everyone says triggers. How are you going to explain it otherwise?
And they were like, triggers, whatever. And I was like, no. Our language influences our psychology. Our psychology influences our biology, right? So it's important to pay attention to how we frame things. It's not the words really, it's how we're looking at life. So if we have an approach that says our children are out to get us, or our children just know how to trigger us, this sets us off on the wrong footing. We can't afford to start on the wrong footing because what starts wrong is wrong in the middle and it ends wrong because it's a domino effect. So the chant and the mantra that I proposed to the first audience that heard this was to annihilate this entire way of thinking. So here's the paradigm shift number 4. There is no trigger out there. The old definition of triggers is that there's something out there that triggers us. The new definition of triggers is that there's something in us that triggers us. Now, this is not an option.
No, that's a mandatory. That's a prereq. That's a fundamental.
This is a game changer.
It's also a game changer. And I think that one way that you can think about this, right? So it says, I can't read
the new definition of trigger.
The new definition of trigger is that something in us triggers us. I always think about it this way. Two people face the same challenge. Similar backgrounds, let's say they're twins, okay? Similar DNA, similar backgrounds, right? They face the same challenge. They have two completely different responses. So it actually cannot be something external.
Exactly.
It must be something internal. But because my husband putting the kids to bed doesn't react. He doesn't react the same way that I do. You know?
But the way we parents like to pitch our problems and our woes is like rudeness, biting, hitting, as if all of us need to react in the same primitive way. We're not automatic creatures. We're not automatons. We have the power to enlist consciousness. And that's what we're here to teach you.
Even in anger, which I would say, so I'm a researcher of emotions and I teach emotional intelligence skills to kids. So I'm all about the emotions. And I would say this is the most difficult emotion to experience mindfully, to experience consciously, but you can.
It's almost as if you need to commit to the realization that anger is so primitive that we need to annihilate its existence, not through squashing, through denial, but through a transformation. The anger is here to teach us something. And the first things, as I'm showing Rini, is to teach us what in our inner child was left wounded that is resurfacing now. So stick with us. We have a lot more to cover, and we're going to slowly deconstruct why we get triggered and how to solve it.
Yeah, I like to think of it as anger is like a spy that's sending me an encoded message and sending it in a really loud and powerful way so I won't miss it. And I need to decode the message. It's encoded.
Right. So besides showing us our mismatched expectations, besides showing us our inner child wounding, it's also asking us to make a decision. Do I want to enter primitive brain and just do it the old way, the archaic way? The old way says that something is out there. Rini, you can break down this equation really well.
Right. The old way says something's out there. Fear goes to survival, protection, attack, disconnection. Do you see this part? Attack, disconnection. So fear, right? So we feel that primal sense of fear and we go into survival mode. Immediately our brain is telling our brain and body that we need to attack. So this can be my kid's not sleeping, right? Puts me in this. I want to protect myself. And the attack mode is screaming at my kids, go to bed. Put your shoes on, eat your food. You're making me crazy, whatever that is. But look at the last piece of this in the old way. It leads to disconnection. And we know it. We do it because it leads to short-term compliance. We do it because, listen, when I scare you like that, even though you're going to feel disconnected from me, you're going to listen to me. And I need to go.
Well,
right?
It's going to take us a long time to unwire or rewire this yelling response, this need to be in control. That's why I wrote the book. Discipline doesn't work, but no one has been talking about this. So we have been not only primarily wired from our ape-like ancestors, but also in our recent past, our parents raised us through control. So it took me years to retrain myself to go, every time I'm in anger, I'm actually following an old stale way.
Pattern, yeah. That's been wired into our system. So we know that neurons that fire together wire together. And those neurons were firing many, many, many years ago when perhaps our parents were saying the same thing. And if you've ever heard yourself say something and say, I sound just like my mom, or I sound just like my dad or my caretaker, I can't believe I sound like them. Well, that conditioning pre-exists from long ago. And if you're exhibiting a new pattern that is not something generational, well, that pattern, anger, becomes a habit in your brain.
But I know there are people out there sitting there saying, oh, come on, Dr. Shefali, you don't live in my house. If you saw my way and my children, I give them plenty of warnings. I give them beautiful options and choices.
I'm so present with them. I'm so connected with them. I'm so good to them.
Yeah, what do you
so
want me to do after the
them.
100th time? I'm going to lose my anger. What I want you to do is not to squash the feeling, but to understand that every time you give in to that tipping point, and we all do, at least once a week, I know I do, it's not about shaming you. It's about asking you to make a commitment that anger, as it is reactive, as it is projected, as it is like projectile vomit, that kind of anger is so disconnecting and toxic that we must mandate ourselves to learn a new way. You have to first sign a declaration, an oath, a commitment to that old anger, that primitive anger being diminished from your life, mitigate. You must make a commitment to decrease. If you're rationalizing right now and going, I'm sorry, I had to yell. Or I'm sorry, I had to slap.
I asked the same thing 15 times, who wouldn't yell, can you go brush your teeth? Can you go brush your teeth? Can you go brush your teeth? I asked you nicely so many times.
And that's not even real anger. You and I know that we are like
I don't
losing
want to blow
shit.
the mic out. Okay.
Right, exactly. So if you're still sitting there going, and rationalizing to yourself, I want you to understand that that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
Take a pause and make a note. I am still justifying my anger. So take a moment to be honest with yourself. If you're really able to crack this code with us, or are you still clinging and justifying? You can just write in the chat box. Are you still justifying? Just write still justifying,
okay.
or willing to crack.
It's okay.
Because this is the cycle.
This is the cycle
that we need to transcend.
We feel, I think that point is very important. Sometimes we feel compelled, like that I had no other choice but to do this,
right,
in order to have order in my house. Still justifying, willing to cracking, someone says. Willing to crack the cycle, willing to crack, yes, but willing, not justifiable. If we think about it from a goal setting perspective as well, if we want the outcome to be that our children listen to us, right, then losing our bleep, our shit, is not the best way to get them to listen. They will listen in the short term. They will develop a lot of feelings of underlying fear in the long term that will come out in a lot of different unhealthy, maladaptive ways.
And not only will it create adverse conditions in your relationship, what you're really losing is what we're trying to teach you, the opportunity for you to evolve from old, archaic, stale and stagnant to conscious, enlightened. This is the leap all our work is about. Mm-hmm. And you have to make a commitment that my journey in this life is about evolution. And evolution takes inner work and change, physical change.
Yeah, you are looking for 2 connection points. One, to connect with yourself. Because what we're doing when we feel that anger, like I was talking about, that tightness in my chest and the burning in my throat, is that we disconnect very quickly from that. We don't want to lean into that discomfort. It's very uncomfortable physically. So we just say, we're just going to get the yell out. But if we can lean past that, into that discomfort and go past it, you're going to find a point of connection within and be able to hear the message of the anger. And then the second connection point is outward with whomever you're yelling at or whatever the situation is, as if it's your child or your,
absolutely.
Right? So you're looking for a double connection, first internally and then externally.
Absolutely. So the new way is that it's something in us. This has to be the mandatory commitment in your life. With any relationship, it's about me. It's about me. It's about me. How can I deconstruct? How can I change? So the new way, Rini, can you see it?
Pause, go inward. No, I can't see it. I'm doing this. What is the need? And connect. Pause, go inward. What is the need? And connect. So this is the new way. So the title of this webinar is how to get your kids to listen without losing your bleep, right? And what we're telling you is that this is the formula to do that. Now, I know you're probably saying, you guys see the paper, sorry. I know what you're probably saying is, listen, you have no idea. In my house, there's sensory overload. How am I going to do all these things when my kid is yelling at the top of their lungs and my other kid is biting me?
So let's just take a quick example, and we cover this in our 7-week course in depth. But just to give you a little role play of the old way and the new way, let's do it in real time. Okay. So Rini, you be the nastiest.
Should I be the nasty child?
The nastiest teenager on earth.
Okay, cool. I can do it.
So you say
on my phone. Yeah, in order to be a nasty teenager or any teenager, you need your phone. Okay.
Right. So can you please go pick up your clothes?
Can you get out of my room? There's a door on my door. Can you please? I'm sorry.
What did you just say?
I'm doing something right now.
What did you just say?
You get your privacy and your.
What did you just say to me?
You said that this was my space.
Give me. I want your phone. And go to your bed.
This
go
is an invasion of privacy.
Go and clean your room right now.
I hate you.
Clean your room right now.
You are the worst mom on earth, the universe.
You are grounded for life.
See what I'm talking about? Exactly. That's an example of how you're the worst.
Okay. So do you notice that? Let me ask Rini. What did you notice, Rini, when I came into your space?
I felt an immediate loss of control. So that brought me back to my teenage life, when I remember only having control in very closed environments for myself. And I have very loving parents, but my mom was very involved. And I felt loss of control. Like, I want to control my life now. And why are you not letting me do that? Not trusting me.
And I felt like you had no choice but to match me. I was raising my voice. You were raising my voice. I was raising you. It was like there was the volcano spewed out so fast, and it was a torrential downpour, and no one could control it.
That's what I've learned to do. That's all I know. That's
all
I've
I
ever
wanted
seen.
to do was just to like overpower her. But now she's strong. Teenagers are strong.
Yeah.
If you come in with this approach with a teenager, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, there's going to be blood.
Will go blind.
Yes. All of us are going
Yes.
to be bloodied and dismembered.
Yes.
Because if you have a teenager worth his or her salt, they will fight back, and they should. Did you see how unconscious I was? This is how parenting is.
Because you felt attacked, right? And you felt like the words that I was saying, it was like there were swords hitting you.
Right.
Little
I
knives
just
hitting
couldn't
you.
believe
Yes.
it.
I pierced your
right. And I
shield.
dissociated,
Mhm.
and all that was left was my inner child. She
And
was
weren't you
piercing
hearing that
my inner
voice?
child.
I'm hearing this generational voice, like the voice of the grandparents saying, how disrespectful.
Right.
You know, we're in public now, maybe. And it's like, how can you let your child talk to you like that?
Right. So let's do it the new way,
Okay.
which we can at least try once a year.
That's good.
Let's try.
It's better than
okay?
nothing. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, Mom.
Hi.
I'm busy right now. I'm busy right now.
I know. What you doing?
I have stuff going on
I
here
know,
with
I
my
know,
friend.
I
Mom, you
know.
won't understand. You don't get it. I know you don't get it. I know
I
it's
know,
cute that
I
you're
know.
trying to get it, but I'm
I
busy
know.
right now. Okay.
I'm going to give you a space. but
Hey, yeah.
Can you make eye contact for a second? Can you put the phone down just for a
I
second?
really can't put the phone down for a second. Can you just hang on for a second,
Okay.
Mom? I mean, okay, what's up? What do you need?
Okay. So first, the attitude can just decrease because I'm not attacking you. Look,
Okay.
no guns, no
Oh yeah,
arms.
I'm just saying. What do you need?
Okay,
Okay.
and-
All right. Let me try. What do you need?
Okay.
Is that
so
better?
What I
Okay.
need from you
Yeah.
is within the next 5 minutes, I need you to get up, put your phone away, and go clean your room.
That sounds like a lot of instructions, like a
Okay.
lot of commands.
I
Really?
need you to do this for me.
But Mom, it's not an emergency.
I know.
But what I'm doing is really important.
Okay, so whenever I come to you with a request, I see that you get really upset. What about my requests make you so upset all the time?
Because I feel like they're constant. Do you really want to know? I feel like they're.
Tell me, because I feel like I'm always annoying you.
I don't mean to make you feel like that, but I just feel like from the second I get up to the minute I go to bed, you're telling me what to do. Mom, I'm 15.
I know. So
I'm
are you
15.
So let me just ask you, are you feeling like I'm over hovering and over controlling?
Yes. You're hovering, you're controlling, and I feel like you don't trust me.
Yeah.
I can do it, Mom. I'll
I
clean
know,
my
no,
room.
you know, no child should feel like that, because I remember my parents didn't trust. I had a feeling like they didn't trust me, and I'm doing it again to you. So what can we do? Because I need my house clean too.
Okay.
Okay, so while you're here, I need it clean, but I see that I'm bothering you so much, and it hurts me. It hurts me. I don't want to hurt you. You're like with fangs out. You're like scary. Am I scary to you?
Kind of. I mean,
So-
sometimes you do that to me, and I just feel like I have to do it back, because you don't listen otherwise.
I know, but you must be
If
exhausted.
I say like nicely to you, you don't get it.
I know.
But you get it if I
Something wrong
scream,
with-
you get it.
I know there's something wrong with the way I hear. I just don't get it. So you need to help me. I wanna understand you better.
Okay, well, I need a little bit of privacy. That's important to me. I'll clean my room, okay?
Okay, but within 5 minutes. So you give me some and I give you some, okay?
Okay, fine. So we know that not everything wraps up so nicely.
Oh,
in
no,
life.
it doesn't.
Yeah, we know that.
But there was a difference in my approach. I entered the moment differently. The first thing I did was don't have a movie. The second thing I did was join her. Try to make a moment of connection. And the third thing I decided to do is strategy number 1.
Big
Is
strategy.
do not take it personally.
But Dr. Shefali, how can we not take it personally when our kids are telling us they hate us? That's very personal.
It's personal if you are in your inner child mode. If you're in the conscious parent mode, you would have learned that your job is not to control your children. Your job primarily is to connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
So for that to happen, your little rampaging monster of your inner child, that needs to be healed on your own time with your own therapist. It cannot happen in this journey, you see, and that's where we mess up. We're using our children to heal all the control issues that we never had as children. This is not the place to go and heal your own control monster. Your control monster needs to be healed with your therapist. Your fears, your helplessness, your paranoia about belonging, looking pretty, getting A grades, that's your own inner child stuff. You go do that with your therapist. This work is about being the parent, being the conscious one, where you have to energetically wrap your child up in an ocean of unconditional space and presence. When I do research with children, I ask them, what are the top 3 or 4 things your parents are not giving you? These are the 4 P's on this page. The teenagers say, oh my God, they take everything so personally. And then the children say that the 3 P's are they're not present, meaning they're distracted, they're on their phones, they're working too much, they're not playful. The younger children say that. The teenagers say personal. And the 4th thing is that they're not patient, right? So how can we be these things when we are in inner mode of hijacked by inner child?
I mean, these things seem like they're almost superhero-like qualities to be when your child is screaming that they hate you, when they're being rude, and not to take it personally. So one thing that I would say in terms of a technique is what we just told you. Anger is a secondary emotion. When your child is screaming, when they're manifesting anger, your job is to be a curious detective. Kind of cock your head to the side and say, I have, we like to call it supervision, and I can see into your insides. I can see your emotions, and I can see the primary emotions.
So we're getting into strategy number 2, but we have a fabulous video that will illustrate how to go to the primary feeling beneath the secondary reaction of anger. So we want you to buy your own supervision glasses very soon.
That's right. So we are going to play an example of what we are talking about.
Is it
your screen for a second and then unshare your screen? That might fix it. Okay. I'm good at using this mouse. No.
Oh my God.
Worst. Okay, well, the video's not loading anymore. So now, can you guys hear us? Because I see that the Okay, don't select the video. Good. Okay, let's just select the webcam.
Yeah, but it's not substitute.
Yes, we can hear. We're back! Sorry. Can you hear and see us?
We're just going to slip right back because that's life.
That happens.
So the second strategy we want to talk about, which is pivotal in enveloping your child with an ocean of space, presence, and the energy of curiosity, is what Rini likes to call putting on your supervision glasses. So Rini, explain what that is, and then I'll go deeper into it.
Okay. Supervision is emotional X-ray vision. So you are trying to get to what the anger is covering up.
Because it's a secondary emotion.
And this becomes, you're going to be able to do it so quickly once you practice it. So someone's coming at you angry, your spouse, the guy behind the register that you don't even know, your child. And what you do is you look at them and you use a physical anchor. Okay, this is a silly one, but I'm going to put on my supervision glasses and kind of look to the side. You can just kind of tilt your head. I would like you to use a physical anchor and then say to yourself, I'm very curious about what is the underlying emotion here. And if you ask yourself that question, your brain will begin to produce answers, right? So for a child screaming, I hate you, I can't stand you, most of the time what they're trying to say is, I need your help, I need you, I'm not getting enough connection.
Or you are controlling me, I need some space, please leave me alone, respect me. So what we're doing in that moment of getting angry is we are squashing their inner spirit or essence with our projection, with our movie and our control. So all senses now are shutting down. Instead of opening up in presence, we are shutting down in control. And this is the surefire way to disconnect from your children. So let's just go to one of the most important linchpins of my work. It's paradigm number 5. It's moving from control to connection. So the child says, I hate you, and you're the worst mother in the world, and da-da-da-da-da. And when you parent the old way, you resort to threats, to discipline, to coercion, to bribing, to slapping, to physical contortions, and that is going to create disconnection. The new way is to ask, what is the need, which takes us to strategy number 2. Always ask, what is the need beneath the behavior? Is it a need for connection or a need for a boundary? And you always must allow connection to triumph.
I am nodding like this. I can't stop. I'm not doing it to bother you guys. I am nodding because I'm telling you that asking this question will change your life. My husband sometimes thinks I'm Yoda or something. He literally thinks I'm a Jedi Knight because my child is screaming at the top of their lungs and I'm looking at him thinking, what's the need beneath the behavior? I am asking the question out loud and my husband's like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Like, how can you be asking this kid? Like, let's make him stop screaming.
There are 2 needs, right? Like she said, there's 2 places to connect always in life. What's going on within me? What's going on with the other? If you don't consistently take care of your own needs, though, you'll never be able to understand and have empathy for the other. Right now, I can see 60-year-old people and I feel compassion because I see their inner need, right? If somebody cuts us in traffic, instead of reacting in anger, I go, my God, they must really have a need to get somewhere on time or have power over another person in a car. How sad that they're so hungry for power. What happened to them in their childhood? As Eckhart Tolle says, what is their pain body that they're carrying from childhood that allows them to be so unconscious? So supervision glasses, or the ability to ask, what is their need? Or another way I ask is, what is their pain body? Allows you to connect at a very deep level. Now, you may not want to do it with your spouse, fine. Don't do it with your neighbor, fine. But you've got to do it with your children because your children's emotional needs must be met so that later on, they're not walking around with big pain bodies and unable to create connection in their lives. So if your mission is to connect, expect dissonance, expect retaliation, expect rudeness. Like I look at parents of teenagers and they come to me and go, do you know my kid was so rude to me? And I go, yeah, what did you expect? Or Rini will say, I have not slept for 7 nights straight. I go, yeah, what do you expect? This is the nature of children. It is so hard.
I think one of the things that really has helped me is to embody being a guide to them, embody being a coach to them, embody being a teacher to them. So whenever one of my kids or someone that I'm working with is feeling a little bit out of control, I step into my role as their guide, thinking they need guidance. And when you embody that, it's much easier to actually guide them along, to use all these tools, to put the supervision glasses on, to connect with myself and connect with them. It makes it much easier. So now we're not in opposition. I'm trying to, as you said, come alongside the child and hold their hand and guide them.
Yeah, one of the most profound shifts I made personally, which allowed me to write my books, is the transformation from thinking of myself as a parent, because the verb and noun parent, both of them indicate that I need to do something. I need to have control. I need to produce an end result, an outcome that's going to change the world. I was rigid and heavily anxious because I thought I was on this grand journey to create the perfect child. My spiritual epiphany came when I realized that we are all spirits in form, here just traversing this life together. And we've been here many times before and we'll be here many times after. And even if you don't believe in that, you've got to know that we are spirits in form because we have this tremendous spiritual energy. So when I realized, oh, my daughter may have chosen me and my daughter's already been here and my daughter is a wise spirit, that she only needs my help to usher her. And the only way I can usher her is by ushering myself to the highest level of evolution. So then my mission changed from producing something, like sleep well or get 10 hours of sleep or eat a perfect diet.
Take piano lessons and be a pianist.
Right.
Yeah.
I relinquished myself from all of that because all that was coming in the way of me disconnecting. It was going against my flow. I was stressed. I was angry. She was stressed and angry.
Yes.
So what was the point of this? It was the wrong way of looking at life. So now I look at each one of us as spirits here to lend a helping hand, to enter our greater divinity. But the only way to do that is for me to step into presence. So if I can remember that every time I'm with my child, she will feel that and not feel threatened. So connection looks like this. So to connect, we have to do things to connect, okay? Don't expect them to connect to you. Your energy has to change.
But when you change your energy, they will naturally connect.
Exactly.
They will naturally
But don't
connect.
expect that. You're changing your energy for yourself.
Don't expect it. So if it doesn't happen, it's okay. But but you can make these shifts. These things are in your control.
Yes. So I learned to talk a lot less, and I'm still told I talk a lot. So I don't know, maybe I have to be mute. And I am mute on many car rides because I figure I need to be a stable, solid invitation for my child to speak to me when they want. And if they're not speaking, they are wise. That means they don't have anything to say. So my anxiety to speak is about taking care of me, not about connecting with my child.
This is a very good practice to do for chunks of time. You can even make do a little silent retreat for yourself for 1 hour in the day, if it's possible, or 15 minutes. And if you do it around your children, you will notice amazing things just from your power of observation.
So talk very little, listen first. First ask, what's going on with you? And don't listen for the sake of then coming back to preach or sermonize or opine. Listen genuinely to own your part in it. So ask questions, don't interrogate.
Empathize.
Do not preach or sermonize. Empathize. Validate where they are at. They are wise spirits. If they're saying that you made them angry, don't say, but you made me angry first. Or I only got angry because da. Or you're angry because you're actually not owning your stuff. No. Wisdom of the spirit must be validated if you want them to validate you. So painful feelings are okay to feel. Now that needs to be a whole webinar on its own. We touch on it in our 7-week course on anger transformation.
I touch on it in every course that I do because I was the child that did not want to feel anything. And the research is very compelling on this, that when we numb our dark emotions, our sadness, our hurt, our rejection, any of the dark stuff, we also numb the light. We essentially become robots.
Right.
There's no way to quash one side of our humanity without quashing the other side. So it's important to allow our kids and to teach them explicitly how to process feelings.
Because they sense when we are afraid of pain. So they squash the pain. And then guess what? That's when they're angry or avoiding in life.
I wanted to touch on one thing that
Yes.
was in caps over there,
Yes.
which is empathy, which you did beautifully in the role play, Dr. Shefali. If you are having trouble connecting with your child, you just have to go back to your own childhood, because you will often find a piece of your life with whoever was taking care of you and be able to connect. So you said to me, I remember when my mom used to do this to me, right? And that is the biggest bridge to connection. Your kids' eyes will open very wide if they see you as having the same vulnerability, right?
We all come from the same core needs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see me? Do you hear me? Do I matter?
Mm-hmm.
So when we can see our children for who it is they are, when we can hear them for their deep needs and their deep aspirations, and when their presence allows us to stop everything we're doing, we show them that they matter. Mm-hmm. Now, this doesn't have to be all day long.
No, little moments of connection, 5 minutes here and there. If you have very little kids, getting on the floor and playing with them and really playing with them, you know, without the anticipation, oh, she's going to get up and leave, or he's going to get up and leave. You know I only have this short amount of time, but really getting into their flow, being in flow with them.
Really, if you look at this as your spiritual opportunity to evolve this, meaning this parent-child relationship, as the linchpin to evolution, you will transform your entire way of looking at them. Now, you will still lose your shit, but you will use that. You will use every moment to ask, how can I evolve? How can I raise myself? I chose this being, this child, to come into my life, this precise, stubborn, lazy, disobedient, disrespectful, whatever child you've just called him out or called her out for, you called this child to your life to mirror back issues that you need to work on. This is how energy attracts energy. We won't lose our shit if there wasn't shit to lose. So you have to own that and use this relationship. It's not a parent-child relationship. That's the disguise. It is a spirit-to-spirit relationship. You're here to help them evolve. They're here to help you evolve. It's a two-way process. So the big paradigm shifter now is, how do you create conditions through your energy, through your environment, without expecting them, right? We all just passively expect things to happen. We're hoping, we're waiting. No, as a spiritual warrior of a parent, you need to create the conditions in your energy and the environment. You only have control over two things, actually only one, but say two. It's your energy and your environment.
Yes.
You don't have control over your child. See, we've been missing the point. We've been thinking that the child is the focus. The child has nothing to do with this. It's you and your ability to control your environment.
You can do a very quick exercise. You draw a circle, and then you draw another circle around that circle. And in the middle circle here, you just write all the things that you have control over. And usually it's yourself, and how you react and how you process your feelings and all the things that you have control over. And then in the outer circle, you write in all the things you don't have control over. Your child's reactions, the weather,
what they're going to do in the future.
A million other things that go in the outer circle. And you realize that your focus is to be on what you've put in the middle. And interestingly, life becomes a weight is lifted off of you.
It is.
A weight is lifted off of
It
you.
is.
Because you're not holding the weight of all of this.
Yes. So how did you change, Rini, from this stressed out, anxious mother? We worked for 7 weeks. We deconstructed your inner child. We changed your expectations. And now tell us how you approach nighttime.
I still spend a very long time in the bedroom with my children. And I'm not trying to make this a happy ending to the story, but I will authentically tell you that it is the most joyous part of my day.
So what did you change?
So what has been changed is I have learned for myself how to create a space between something that was originally a trigger and my reaction. And that space is often there anyway, but there's a huge space between my child saying, I'm not going to go to bed, I'm not going to go to bed, I'm not going to go to bed, and me reacting. And in that space is really where the magic work is done for me, where I'm able to connect with myself. I'm able to say, I'm stepping into my role as a guide to this child. I know that they're just wired to connect to me. I know that they're doing the best that they can. So there's a lot of dialogue that goes on, and it's dialogue that helps me then connect to them.
What she's saying in psychological terms is that her inner child is not taking over. When your inner child is calm, then the guide steps in, and the guide is in the gap between the stimulus, the trigger, right, and our inner child. The more the gap here, the larger your guide, and the larger your guide, the wiser the choices.
And my inner child is also being validated. I am speaking to it. Before I was just quashing that voice completely.
And you take care of it during the day?
I take care of it during the day. So I realized that I'm not going to be able to do this at night. That is not the time I'm going to be able to do it. So I changed my script. I bought a new movie ticket. And I take care of it during the day. And I do a lot of combination things. I meditate when I brush my teeth. I literally do this. I do leg lifts when I take a shower. So I do funny things that I have to do because I have very young children. And I also remember the idea of impermanence. This phase will come and go, as all phases do. This is not forever. And so I'm taking joy in this time.
And her expectation now is not this rigid ideal of perfection. Now she enters the room, because she's told me how she does it, she enters the room to connect. She no longer enters to exit or to control. What a difference just the entrance of energy makes versus what you were doing before. An energy of control, I can guarantee you.
My kids knew I was putting them to bed so that I could leave. You know, that they knew that I was waiting for the minute for them to fall asleep, that I would run out the door and do whatever I wanted to do.
Because you were faking connection, but you really wanted control.
Right.
So now the last strategy we want to teach you about is don't create boundaries through control of the other. Create boundaries through a control of conditions. So instead of controlling the child, control the environment.
So what does that mean? Like, let's talk practically for a second about controlling the environment. So little things for me. I don't keep juice in the fridge anymore. I know that sounds a little harsh, but my 3-year-old is obsessed with juice, and he would try to drink 3 cups of it full of sugar before he went to bed, and that would keep him awake. So controlling the environment means kind of hiding the juice boxes.
But you know, I once went to a client's home in a fancy high-rise in Manhattan, and she had this most fabulous playroom. But guess where all the wars occurred? In the most fabulous playroom, because it was stocked and shelved and labeled. Well, don't do this to yourself. This is a recipe for disaster. So I made her take everything off the shelf, took out all the labels, and just made her throw out most of it and just put 2 big cartons. Control your environment, your energy and your environment. Clean out the cookie closet. Don't have good food.
I took a deep breath about the organization thing, because I know that that's something that's
a setup.
That's a conflict in many, many homes.
It's a setup.
Yeah, because our kids are in flow. They're not trying to have a lack of organization. Their brain is actually organized in a different way, so they don't think of it like that.
Right. So she had fancy carpeting and fancy pillow-like jigsaw puzzles. I took all that out, and she was having a conniption, and we just put newspaper on the ground. And I said, see, now they can mess up. You're not going to control them. They won't fight back. So you are creating your own stressors. The other mother who said, you know, she needs to create a 3-course breakfast before her kids go to school, causing stress in the morning. I said, no, give her a smoothie in the car on the way to school. She has it, she has it. She doesn't have it, she didn't need it. What do you mean breakfast is the most important meal of the day? I mean connection before perfection. Connection before perfection.
Connection, right? Before correction.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
Any of that.
Yeah.
Before control.
Before control.
What is the point of giving them healthy organic food that you're yelling at them to have? Or let's go.
It's like eating a really bad meal and then ordering a Diet Coke. Well, all of that is bad for you, right? But yeah, you think you're doing you're getting in one good thing, but you're sort of neutralizing it by, the destruction of their spirit. Really.
Do not control the child, control your own energy and control your environment. And all my 3 books talk about boundaries, especially The Awakened Family, where I talk about life-affirming boundaries, boundaries that are global: health, safety, hygiene, literacy, right? The basic needs to just function. All the rest I call ego boundaries. Play the piano every day, go for soccer and tennis. No, these are not ubiquitous global needs. These are created from a Western affluence of privilege and therefore not necessary because it's designed to create anxiety. If it's easy to flow with, good. If it's causing you anxiety, eliminate it.
So I want to talk about 2 ways that you can change and shift your perspective. And this is just based on research. So one of the ways is consistent nudging. So if you grew up in a very high achieving environment where you were required to play the piano every day, I played the piano for 5 years. I can't play a note, by the way, but anyway, I played the piano for 5 years. But if you grew up in that environment, then you're wired to that. However, we know through the research of neuroplasticity that your wiring can change, right? That you can change your wiring, and you can change it in 2 ways. One is by nudging yourself. So every day embedding one of these practices into your life, and your brain changes, right? We know the brain changes, and we know that your habits change because some of this is just habit, is what we're saying. The second way is that you have a moment of awe. And a moment of awe in the research is, so if you've ever gone and you stood at the Grand Canyon and you felt a shift inside of your body, a moment of awe can make you change. It is the example of a person who smokes who then sees that their wife is having a baby and has a moment of awe and chucks the cigarettes out and never smokes again, right? Had been a chain smoker. That's a moment of awe, creates a permanent shift. So the reason I'm saying this is because you can take a lot of courses that we have created. You can come to these free webinars, you can come to Evolve, and Evolve creates a moment of awe. It did for me.
Well, what it does is it repivots you, all this work repivots you from the old way that is not working in this world. It didn't work for you, it doesn't work in the world, to the daring invitation that you transform yourself in a new way. So before we end and take questions, let's just go through the strategies really quickly. Do not take it personally, because when you take it personally, it's about your inner child and not about the real child in front of you. The most important question in the world to ask or to pay attention to is, what is the need within me and the need within the child? Connect to the need before you perfect or you control or you correct. And the third one is, don't create boundaries by controlling anybody in your life. Create boundaries by changing your energy and changing your environment. If you have to leave, you have to leave. If you have to change your entire way of designing your home, that's what you have to do. Do everything before you seek to control the child. Let the child evolve naturally, because children are designed to naturally, like a flower to the sun, naturally become their truest self. So we are here to guide them as we become our truest selves.
And now, we've already gone over, but it's been so incredibly enriching and fun. And of course, this is really one of the greatest spiritual teachers, I think, in our presence. I'm always, always, always in awe of her. I'm going to make myself cry. You're going to make me cry.
Aww.
But I just want to say that we are so humbled and grateful for everything that you're putting out into the world. It's amazing.
So we want to invite you sincerely to my annual conference, summit, gathering of special people. It's really become a movement, a tribe, a collective rising of consciousness, a deep commitment to show up as our most authentic selves. So if you follow the link that my assistant will post here, or go to drshefali.com, there's a bonus, a great bonus. I can actually just tell you, if you sign up for Evolve, you get access to over 24 to 30 videos from the last Evolve.
Which
so
was
all the
mind-blowing,
videos,
which was mind-blowing.
All my speeches, the speeches of our guests, I haven't posted it anywhere. It's going to be yours. So it's like getting 2 Evolves for the price of 1. So run to my website, sign up. It's a limited time offer. It's a great bonus. They go to drshefali.com and the invitation to Evolve is right there. And you get this bonus of, I think there are 30 videos, 30 teachings, lectures, deconstructions that we did last Evolve. So it's all there, and I've never posted it anywhere else. So join us, spread the word, and we hope you got something out of this class. Maybe we'll take just 2 quick questions before we end.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions, we would love to answer a couple of questions.
I saw a couple here, so I just want to make sure that we just answer that, and then we will close this webinar. So Rini asks, or Renee, I don't know how to pronounce your name, how do you deal with manipulation? How do you figure out manipulation? Well, just quickly, I'll deconstruct it for you. No one is trying to manipulate you. If they are getting away with it, it's because you don't have boundaries, that you're scared of conflict. You're scared to say no. And that person is, quote unquote, manipulating you, maybe because they are in need of their own inner power. So reframe the way you're looking at manipulation and instead ask, what is their need? They have a need for power. What is my need? My need is to protect and be in charge of my sovereignty. What am I missing here that I'm allowing this person to manipulate me with? So that's how you quickly deconstruct manipulation. And let's ask that question from Bethany.
From Bethany.
You guys said you talk about self-care and how to tend to the child's inner child's
sorry, the questions are running so
needs,
fast.
Like the need for me time. So what Rini did in her reconstruction was that all through the day, she made micro changes because she realized that she was trying to get her needs met by her children. And she realized that that's not the place to get her needs for control, going to the gym, for rest, for competence. These were needs that she needed to take care of all during the day. So talk about the micro changes you began making.
I reconfigured my day, essentially. So originally I wanted my kids to go to bed so I could go to the gym for like 30 minutes. And then I could have about an hour or so to do some personal stuff. I like to read, so reading and things like that. And then I also am a longtime practitioner of meditation. So I wanted to get in 10 to 15 minutes of meditation. So I literally now, when I brush my teeth in the morning and when I brush my teeth at night, I have very clean teeth because I brush them for a long time and I meditate at the same time while I'm brushing. I know this sounds kind of kooky, but I do a little bit of exercise when I'm taking a shower, and then I get in 10 to 15 minutes during the day. I squeeze it in. So I give something up in my day, like a run for coffee or something else, and I squeeze that in. And then I combine things, essentially. And then I realize that when I get home and I go into the bedroom, sometimes my kids do fall asleep quite quickly now. So sometimes it's only 30 minutes, but sometimes it's 2 hours, and I'm okay with it, and I'm joyful.
Because you're nourishing yourself.
Because I'm nourishing myself. And the reconfiguration. And also, I have to say that there's sometimes a week. Like this week, I have gone without doing many of these things. And so the balance that I strike is not every day. I don't do an evaluation. Did I get everything in today? Did I get everything in today?
You're not perfect anymore.
I'm not perfect. And I don't think that is the balance. There are chunks of time that I nourish myself and I really build up that psychological capital. And then there are some days where I don't get any, and that's okay.
And self-care is taught by one of our dear friends, Susie Lula. If you go to susielula.com, and she's going to be one of the speakers at this gathering in September. The link is up there. Evolve the Conscious Way. She's going to be talking about self-care and about how you radically transform your whole idea about being selfish versus being selfless, and how to transcend to the self-nourishment that you really need, right? We battle between how do I be selfless and I shouldn't be too selfish. But Susie Lula, who will be speaking at Evolve, will teach us a whole new way. So go to drshefali.com, check out my bonus videos that you will get if you sign up for Evolve. Join us. Let's make evolution our commitment so that we can show up for our children as the true beacons emblazoned with mindfulness, with courage, and with authenticity that we want them to live their life with. So we hope to see you there.
Hope to see you there. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye, everyone.
Bye.